It is the 4th of February, and it is 22 degrees on the other side of your kitchen window, and the light coming through that window is the flat gray light Ohio hands out for free from November to March. You open the ice box and stand there holding the door, which your mother told you never to do, and you look at what is in it. Milk, a package of bacon, half an onion in a paper bag. There is not one green living thing in that box, not one leaf, nothing that was growing a week ago. So you go down the cellar steps, and I want to be fair to you. That shelf is not empty. Green beans in jars, tomatoes in jars, beets in jars, and somebody in your house stood over a hot canner in August and put every one of them up. But you look at them in the cold, and every single thing on that shelf is the color of an old penny. And every single thing on that shelf has already been cooked once. You have been eating out of jars since the first week of November. You are not hungry. That is not the trouble. You are just tired in a way you cannot put a name to, tired of food that had all the interesting parts boiled out of it before it ever reached you. So you put your coat on. You scrape the windshield. You drive 14 miles into town through the salt slush, and you walk in under those lights that hum, and you go to the far wall where the cold air blows down, and you pick up a plastic clamshell with 5 ounces of baby spinach in it. 5 ounces. A double handful. One supper for 2 people, if nobody is greedy. And the sticker says $4.29. You put it in the cart. Of course you do. What else are you going to do in February? Now here is the part I want you to hear. Those leaves were cut in Yuma, Arizona. Nearly every wintergreen in this country comes out of that one desert valley, and 1 or 2 like it, November through March. And Yuma sits about 2,190 miles from where I am standing. So those leaves were cut by a crew in the dark, washed in chlorinated water, spun dry in a machine the size of a hay wagon, dropped into that plastic box, and driven across an entire continent in a refrigerated trailer so that you could eat a double handful of them on a Tuesday night in Ohio, and then you will do it again next week, and the week after that. Now I want you to sit with this. From the first hard frost in October to the first spinach out of your own dirt in May is about 22 weeks. If your family eats 2 of those little boxes a week, and any family that cares about eating something green eats more than 2, you are handing over somewhere between $180 and $210 every winter. Not for meat, not for flour, not for anything that keeps you warm or keeps you alive. For leaves. And you will do it every winter you have left. And the price goes up every one of them. And about 100 feet from your back door, out there in the wet, gray dark, there is a patch of ground that could have been handing you those same leaves this whole time. No greenhouse, no heater. No fan, no light, no wire, nothing to break and nothing to plug in. Just a wooden box about waist wide and knee deep, with an old window laid across the top of it. My grandfather's cost him nothing, because the window came out of a chicken house that fell over in a windstorm in 1961, and the boards came out of the same pile. Mine cost $46.80, because I bought the lumber new like a fool. And I will tell you exactly where every one of those dollars went, and which of them you do not have to spend. My name is Isaac Troyer. I am Amish, and I farm here in Geauga County, Ohio, up in the northeast corner where the snow comes off the lake and does not ask permission. My people came into this county in the 1880s with a wagon and a plow, and they ate green things in January, and they did it without electricity because there was not any. I am going to be honest with you the whole way through, the way I always am, because honest is more useful to you than impressive. I gathered the whole of this, the box and the calendar and the 2 winters I wasted, into a book over at isaactroyer.com. That is the one time I will say it. I will not bring it up again. Now here is the honesty, right up front, before you have given me 20 minutes of your evening. The bold claim is that a box made of old windows feeds you all winter long. Here is what that claim really means, and I would rather tell you now than have you find out in December and go around telling folks that Isaac Troyer lied to you. That box will not grow anything in the deep of winter, not one leaf. It is not a little greenhouse, and any man who tells you it is has never once knelt in the snow in front of one in January. What that box does is hold what you already grew. It is a pantry. The pantry just happens to have roots in it, so the food inside stays alive and stays crisp and gets sweeter the colder it gets, and never knows it was picked, because it was not. But between about the 5th of November and about the 6th of February, it sits still. It does not make new food. It waits. And the reason it waits is not the cold. That right there is the part that took me 11 years and 2 ruined plantings to get through my head. And it is the exact reason most folks who build one of these boxes quit after their first winter. They plant it too late. They watch it sit there doing nothing all December. They decide the old way is a story their grandmother made up, and they go back to the clamshell and the 2,000-mile truck. The old way works fine. They just never understood what the box was for. Stay with me. Once you see the plain sense of it, everything after this makes plain sense too. So let me tell you what is really going on out there in that box. Because once you see it, you will never plant one wrong again. There are 3 things happening under that glass. They are all plain physics, and none of them care about your opinion. If the first one is light, and it matters most, and almost nobody knows it. A green plant is running a business. It takes in light and makes sugar with it, and it burns sugar every hour of the day and night just to stay alive. The same as a horse eats whether he is working or standing in the stall. In summer, the light comes in for 15 hours, and the plant makes far more than it burns, so it grows. In deep winter, it comes in for 9 hours, weak and sideways, and the plant makes just about exactly what it burns. It breaks even. And a business that breaks even does not build a barn. The floor is right around 10 hours of daylight. Under 10 hours, a leafy green quits building. It does not die. It does not wilt. It just stops and holds what it has like a man with his hands in his pockets, waiting for the rain to let up. Now, I will be honest. This is not my grandfather's word for it. A market grower up in Maine named Elliot Coleman gave it the name that stuck, and he is not Amish, and he is not from here. He called it the Persephone period, after the old Greek story about the girl who went under the ground for part of the year, and nothing up top would grow until she came back. I did not learn that from my bishop. I learned it out of a book. But it is a true name, and I will use a true name no matter whose mouth it came out of. Here is what that means in numbers. For my county, Geauga County sits at about 41.5 degrees north. Our day drops under 10 hours right around the 5th of November, and does not climb back over 10 hours until right around the 6th of February. Give or take a day, that is 93 days. 93 days where the light itself is the wall, and it does not matter one bit how warm your box is. You could pipe steam in there and hold it at 70 degrees, and it still would not grow you a leaf. It would only kill what is in there faster, because you would have the plant burning sugar at a July rate on a December light bill. If you live down in Kentucky or Tennessee, your wall is shorter, maybe 60 or 70 days. Up in Michigan or Wisconsin, it is longer. Maybe 105. Go find your own dates. Any almanac has the day length for your town. That is your calendar. It does not change, and no seed company can sell you around it. So the whole business turns on one sentence, and if you remember nothing else from tonight, remember this one. Whatever you intend to eat in January must be full grown by about the first week of November. The box is not a factory. The box is a root cellar with a window in it. You are not growing in winter. You are storing in winter, and you are storing it the smartest way anybody ever thought of, which is to leave the food attached to its own roots in its own dirt so it never learns it was harvested. A leaf in a clamshell has been dying since the moment the knife touched it. A leaf in your box does not know a thing about knives. It is just cold, and it is fine. That is the first thing. Here is the second thing, and this one is the pretty one. The cold does not hurt those greens. The cold sweetens them, and there is a real reason for it. When the nights start dropping into the 30s, a spinach plant does something on purpose. It pulls starch out of storage, turns it into sugar, and pushes that sugar out into the water inside its own cells. Sugar water freezes at a lower temperature than plain water does. Every one of us knows that in our hands, even if we never knew the words, because it is exactly why we pack salt around the ice cream churn. Salt water will go below 32, and plain ice will not. The plant is running the same trick with sugar instead of salt. The chemists call it freezing point depression. The country folks just call it the reason winter spinach tastes like it has been candied. So the plant is anti-freezing itself, and the antifreeze it uses happens to be the very thing that makes your supper taste good. A January leaf out of that box will stop you where you stand. A July leaf off the same seed packet tastes like wet paper, and no truck can bring you the January one, because the plant only makes that sugar when it is scared of the cold, and nothing in that desert is scared of anything in February. And here is the third thing, where the box itself finally earns its keep. On the 21st of December, at high noon, at my latitude, the sun is only 25 degrees up off the horizon. 25 degrees. Hold your arm out level, raise it a quarter of the way to straight up, and that is where the sun lives in December. It is not overhead. It comes at you nearly sideways. Now think about the lid on your box. Most folks build a cold frame low and nearly flat, a hand's width of slope from back to front, because that is what the picture in the magazine looked like. A nearly flat lid, with the sun coming in at 25 degrees, catches about 59% of that noon sunbeam. The rest skids off the glass like water off a duck. Lean that same lid up to 45 degrees and it catches about 94% of the same beam, same glass, same sun, same county. You just turned it to face the thing it was trying to catch. That is the whole difference between a box that works from November on and a box that does not wake up until March, and it is free. It costs you 2 boards cut on an angle. The engineers have long words for it and a table of numbers. We just call it holding the pan under the spout instead of beside it. Now there is a fourth thing, and I saved it because it is my favorite. And an Englisher neighbor flat refused to believe it until he felt it with his own hand. You are going to put 5 one-gallon jugs of water along the back wall of that box, painted black or wrapped in an old feed sack. Most folks who have heard of this think the water just soaks up warmth in the day and gives it back at night. That is true, and it is the small part. Here is the big part. Water cooling from 70 degrees down to 32 gives back about 317 heat units per gallon. That is a candle. But when that water hits 32 and starts to actually freeze, it gives back about 1,196 more per gallon while it turns to ice. And the whole time it is doing that, it will not go 1 degree below 32. It cannot. It is stuck there until the last of it is solid. So 5 gallons freezing on the worst night of the year hands you around 6,000 heat units, slow, all night, at exactly 32 degrees. It fights hardest at the precise hour you need it, and it quits only when the danger is past. It costs you 5 jugs and a hose. That is not a trick, that is the plainest physics there is, and it will not negotiate with your weather. Now let me give you the parts list with the prices, so you know what you are in for before I ask you to swing a hammer. 2 old wooden sash windows. Mine came out of a farmhouse being torn down in Middlefield, and the fellow handed them over for nothing because he was going to burn them. Check the building salvage store, check an auction, check the barn of any neighbor over 70, figure $0 if you ask around, $8 to $15 a piece if you do not. If you cannot find glass, a sheet of twin-wall polycarbonate 2 feet by 4 runs, about $18, and it will not cut your children. Boards for the sides. Untreated hemlock, oak, or cedar, 1 inch by 10, about 16 feet of it. Barn boards are free and better. New hemlock at our sawmill ran me $34 and change. 2 3-inch strap hinges, $4.60 the pair. A box of 3-inch deck screws, $7.40, and you will use 30 and have the rest forever. 5 1-gallon jugs, free. Rinse the vinegar ones out. 1 stick about 18 inches long, with 3 notches cut in it, free. And a thermometer you can read through the glass, about $6. And that is the one thing on this list I will argue with you about if you try to skip it. That is $46.80 if you buy it all new like I did, or about $9 if you have any sense and any neighbors, and it will last 12 to 15 winters if you set it on gravel and keep the glass whole. Now I will tell it slow. Step 1. Pick the spot and pick it in December, not in April. Go out on a clear day around the 20th of December at noon and find the ground that is in full sun at that hour. That is the only hour that matters. A spot that bakes in July can sit in the shade of your own house at Christmas because the sun is riding 25 degrees off the ground and your house throws a shadow twice as long as it is tall. The best spot there is, if you have it, is hard against the south wall of the house or a block foundation. That wall soaks heat all day and leans it back into your box all night, and it costs you nothing. Step 2. Build it crooked on purpose. Back wall 20 inches tall, front wall 9 inches. That is your slope, but if you want it working from November on, do not build it that shallow. Build a proper lean-to. Set the back against that south wall at about waist height and run the sash down to the ground, and your glass is sitting near 45 degrees, catching 94 cents of every sun dollar instead of 59. You give up some floor space. In November, you will not care. Step 3. Face it true south, not the south your driveway feels like. Take the compass off the shelf and remember that in Ohio, true south is about 7 degrees off from what the needle says, so aim a hair to the west of where the needle wants to sit. 7 degrees sounds like nothing. It is not nothing on a 9-hour day. Step 4. Set the box on the ground, not in it. And here is the part most folks get wrong. Do not dig it down into the dirt for shelter from the wind. I did that. It looked clever. What it made was a bathtub. The first February thaw filled it with an inch of standing meltwater that had no place to go, and I lost every plant in it, not to cold, to drowning and rot. Set your frame on top of the ground on 2 inches of gravel, and bank the outside of the walls with straw bales or leaves or snow. Then you have your windbreak, and your water still has somewhere to run. Step 5. Fill it with the right things. And this is where the garden center will fail you, because they do not sell what you need at the time you need it. The rack seed will not carry you. You want the tough old winter sorts, spinach called space, or tie, or giant winter. And if you find only one, make it giant winter. Corn salad, which some folks call mache. And I will tell you plain, it is the toughest green in this hemisphere. It will sit under a frame at 10 below and shrug. Claytonia, winter boar and red Russian kale. Tatsoi, which lays down flat like a green dinner plate. Winter density and rouge de vert lettuce, and nothing else in lettuce, because the summer sorts turn to slime the first time they freeze. And a few short carrots, which do a thing I will tell you about at the very end, because it is the best part of this whole video and I want you to stay for it. Step 6 is the calendar. I will say the dates for my county, and you shift them a week later for every 100 miles you live south of me, a week earlier for every 100 miles north. Around the 20th of August, the ground is still warm, and you still have 14 hours of light. That is when you start. Sow your spinach and corn salad and tatsoi right in the ground where the frame will sit. No frame yet. Just dirt and seed and water. Through September you let it run in the open air. And this is the growing time. All the growing you are ever going to get happens now, in September and October, while the light still pays its own way. Around the first week of October, when the nights start touching 38 degrees, you set the frame down over the top, not before. Put hot lass on in September and all you will do is cook them. Then on the 1st of November, look in there. Whatever is standing in that box on the 1st of November is what you get. That is the whole crop. It is finished growing. And from there to the 6th of February, you are only opening a pantry door and taking out what is already on the shelf. Now, the thing that kills more of these boxes than any blizzard ever has. It is not the cold, it is the sun. Step 7. You must vent that box, and vent it on the days you would never think to. A clear day in January, 35 degrees outside, no wind. That feels like a day you leave the lid shut tight. Shut it on a day like that. And by 12:30, the inside of that box is 85 or 95 degrees. In January, with snow on the ground, those plants are hardened for winter, full of sugar, holding still, and you just drop them into August. They will not die pretty. They go soft and yellow, and then the gray mold takes them. Because a shut box on a sunny day is warm and wet at once, and warm and wet is how rot makes its living. So, here is the rule, simple enough to keep in your head. If the outside air is above 32 degrees and the sun is out, crack that lid 2 inches, the stick's first notch. Above 40, prop it 6 inches, second notch. Above 50, take the lid clean off and lay it in the grass. And close it by 2:30 in December to trap the last of the day's warmth before the sun quits on you at 5:10. Now I know what you are thinking, because I thought it too. You have a job. You are not home at 12:30 on a Tuesday in January to prop a window. So here is the honest, tiered answer. The free version is the notch stick and being home. The bought version is a thing called an automatic vent opener, and I will not pretend it is an old Amish secret, because it is not. It came out of a factory. It is a little cylinder of wax on a piston. Wax swells when it warms. That is the whole of it. At around 68 to 72 degrees, the wax swells, shoves the piston, and lifts your lid. And when it cools, the lid comes back down. No battery, no wire, nothing to plug in, and it lifts 15 or 20 pounds of sash. They run $35 to $60. My grandfather did not have one. I have one, and I am not going to lie about it, and I am not going to apologize for it either. Same physics. One costs $42. One costs a stick and being home. Before I go further and give you the safety word, let me pause for one moment. If you want to lower your bills, waste less, repair more, stretch your groceries, and run a steadier home, come join our Amish home savings community. You can ask me questions there whenever you get stuck, and folks who have been at this 30 years answer each other. The link is down in the description. Now the safety word plainly, because this matters, and there are 3 of them, and every one is real. The first is lead. If that sash was painted before 1978, and if it came out of a farmhouse, it surely was. That paint has lead in it. Do not sand it. Do not scrape it dry. Do not put a heat gun to it. A test kit is about $12 at any hardware store and takes 30 seconds. If it comes up hot, you have 2 choices. Seal it in under a good exterior primer, or use that sash somewhere that is not 8 inches above the food you eat. And wash your hands before you eat, every time. The second is glass. That is a heavy pane of old single glass at knee height, and you are going to kneel in front of it in the wet, and a child is going to sit on it, because a child sits on everything. Run clear safety film over the pane, or use twin-wall polycarbonate instead, and use a prop that cannot kick out sideways when the wind gets under that lid. A sash that slams is a guillotine over your hands. The third one is the one that will actually hurt somebody. Do not put fresh manure under greens you intend to eat raw. I know the old books talk about hotbeds and fresh horse manure, and the heat is real, but that heat comes with company, and raw manure carries what it carries. The federal rule for certified organic ground is 120 days between raw manure and any harvest that touches soil, and greens touch soil. So aged compost only, a year old at least. If you want a proper hotbed, build it in March under things you will cook, not in October under salad. Now, how you take the food out, because you can do everything else right and ruin it in the last 10 seconds. On a cold morning, you will lift that lid, and your spinach will be frozen solid, solid like a green coin, every leaf flat on the dirt and glassy. Your heart will drop, and you will think you lost it. You did not. Leave it alone. Here is the rule, and it is the one I would write on a man's hand if we did such things. Never touch a frozen leaf. A frozen leaf has ice needles in it, and if you bend it or cut it or so much as brush it with your glove, those needles tear the cell walls from the inside, and that leaf is slime in the bowl by supper. Leave the lid shut. Come back at 12:30 when the sun has been on it and the leaves have gone limp and dark and wet-looking. That is thawed. Now they are just cold leaves again, and they are perfect, and they do not remember a thing about it. That plant can freeze and thaw 40 times in a winter and be fine, so long as you are not handling it while it is stiff. And when you cut with a scissors an inch above the crown, and leave the little heart in the middle alone. Do not pull. Do not take the whole plant. Take the outer leaves and walk away. And come the 6th of February, when the light comes back over 10 hours, that same plant wakes up and goes again. And you will get a second harvest in March off seed you put in the ground in August. Now the carrots. I told you to stay for this. Sow a short carrot in the middle of August under that frame, and then simply do not dig them. Leave them in the ground all winter under a heap of leaves and the glass. Every hard freeze that walks through that dirt does to the carrot exactly what I told you it does to the spinach. The carrot floods itself with sugar to keep from freezing, so by late January you pull a carrot out of frozen Ohio dirt that tastes like somebody boiled it in syrup. My wife will not let me bring them in before supper anymore because I stand at the pump and eat them. There is no store on this earth that sells that carrot. There is no truck that can bring it. It only exists because it sat in cold ground and got scared. Now let me tell you honestly what this box does not do, because I would want somebody to be straight with me. It does not feed you. I want that said plain. A frame that size gives you maybe 9 to 14 pounds of greens across a whole winter. And if I am generous, 14 pounds of spinach is about 1,400 calories total for 5 months. That is one good breakfast. Anybody who tells you a box of leaves is food security is selling you something, and it is probably a book, and I have a book, and I am still telling you no. Your calories are in the potato bin, and the flour barrel, and the jars, and the meat. This box is not that. Here is what this box actually is, and it is worth more than it sounds. Everything on that cellar shelf went through a boiling water bath, and heat does not care about your vitamin C. It destroys most of it. That is simply what heat does to ascorbic acid. So by February, that beautiful shelf you worked all August for is calories and minerals and comfort, and it is nearly empty of the one thing you cannot store. Your box has exactly that one thing. The old sailors did not get scurvy because they ran out of food. They had barrels of food. They ran out of something green. That box is not your dinner. That box is the thing your jars lost in the canner. Now let me do the honest math out loud, because I promised you numbers and not feelings. The clamshell way. 22 weeks of winter. 2 boxes a week at $4.29 is $188.76. And notice something. 44 clamshells at 5 ounces apiece is 13 3/4 pounds of leaves, which is almost exactly what your frame gives you. Same food. I am comparing like to like on purpose, the box way. $46.80 the first year if you buy every board new like I did, or about $9 if you scrounge. 2 seed packets, $6.40. After that, it is 1 packet a year, about $3, because spinach seed keeps 4 years in a jar in a cold cellar. So your first winter, you are out $53.20, and you keep about $135. The box paid for itself by the second week of December. Every winter after that, it costs you $3 and hands you back $185. Over 12 winters, which is what a hemlock frame on gravel will give you, that is somewhere between $2,100 and $2,400. And that is honest, and I am not counting the gas you did not burn driving 14 miles in the snow. But I will tell you the truth. The money is the smallest part of it. That is not about being cheap. That is about not being on the end of a rope that runs 2,090 miles to a desert. Now, why has nobody ever told you this? There is a great deal of money in a plastic clamshell of leaves grown 2,000 miles away and hauled across a continent in a diesel trailer. Money in the crew, the wash line, the plastic, the truck, the fuel, the cold case, the store, and every one of those is a man with a payroll to meet. There is a great deal of money in a garden center selling you a cold frame kit for $289. That is 6 square feet of thin plastic and goes chalky in 3 years. And there is no money at all, none, in a man telling you to go ask a neighbor for the window off his fallen chicken house and sow spinach on the 20th of August. Walk into any garden center in Ohio in the middle of September. Go on. You will find pumpkins. You will find mums. You will find a wall of Christmas things going up already. You will not find 1 packet of winter spinach seed on the exact week of the exact year that you needed it. Not one. Now, I am not going to stand in my own yard and tell you there is a room of men somewhere plotting against your salad. There is not. It is worse than that, and stranger. Nobody had to arrange this at all. A store puts on its floor whatever answers a question about money, and the question was never about your January. Seed does not sell in September, so they do not stock it in September, so nobody buys it in September, so nobody plants it in August, so nobody eats it in January, so everybody drives 14 miles for the clamshell. That circle turns by itself. It has turned for 60 years, and not one person had to sit down and decide it. That is not a conspiracy. That is just who has a reason to teach you and who does not. So here is what I want you to do this week. And start small. Go outside at noon on the next clear day, find the sunny spot at that hour, and drive a stake in it. Ask 3 people over 70 if they have an old window in the barn. Look up your own town's day length and write down the 2 dates your 10-hour wall opens and closes. Then put that paper on the icebox where you will see it in August. Because August is the whole thing and you will forget. Buy 1 packet of giant winter spinach and 1 of corn salad now, while nobody wants them and they are still on somebody's shelf. Cut a stick and put 3 notches in it. Then tell me in the comments what county you live in and how old your garden is, and whether it was your garden first or somebody else's before you. And if your grandmother had a way of keeping something green through the winter, write it down here where the rest of us can read it. Because those little family methods are exactly the kind of inherited knowledge that vanishes the day nobody writes it down. I read every single one. Next time I am going to show you the old way we hold potatoes and carrots at 34 degrees from October to April in a hole in the ground with no power at all and no fan and no wire. It is the natural next step after today. Take care of that box. Vent it on the sunny days. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.